Hey folks, hi, this is Gigi. I hope you're doing well. Well, welcome back. This is going to be the second episode about personalities. Do we change? When we change? Why we change? I think it's quite interesting. I hope you enjoy. And let me know your thoughts. Okay, see you soon. Tits up.
Getting ready at the dance floor. So turn the lights on. You know it's what we're here for.
Hey folks, thanks for sticking around. Here's the quote that I was talking about that we wanted to discuss further in regards to changing the personality. I thought this was pretty good. So here we go. Are you ready? All right. Keep on beginning and failing. Each time you fail, start all over again. And you will grow stronger until you have accomplished a purpose. Not the one you began with, perhaps, but the one you'll remember. Let me read that again, okay? Keep on beginning and failing. Each time you fail, start over again, and you will grow stronger until you have accomplished a purpose. Not the one you began with, perhaps, but one you'll be glad to remember. That's kind of like that lady was talking about changing her personality. You know, and they were talking about when you change the personality as far as what triggers that. Life happens, things happen, and sometimes we get stuck and we don't know how to move past that. And that's kind of what this quote is saying too. And if you find that you're stuck, and like my mama says, be who you want to be. Be who you want to be. What are you gonna do to change that? Ain't nobody else gonna change that for you. You gotta be the one that makes that intentional movement to change. And that's kind of what she was talking about, because the word that struck me was intention. She called it redesigned her personality, and it was on the CBS Sunday Morning. Like I said, I'll put the clip down below, because like I said, I thought it was really interesting. She said that, I'm going to talk a little bit about her. Her name was Olga Kazan. And she said that she would sometimes feel anxious, that she was sometimes, felt overwhelmed, overworked, and joyless. You don't want to live a joyless life. Trapped in what she called her quiet self. Therapy and self-care helped, but she wanted to do more to change herself. The way she did that is that she needed to actively decide to redesign her personality, as the segment was called. So it's not that something else can make you change. People say that. No, you have to be the one that makes the change. Be the force in your life to make the change. And what they found, there has been research about changing your personality, and it can be done. It's not something that's easy. Sometimes it takes a while, but there's a shift. That's kind of something I've mentioned to Big Dog about, about when people change. I go, in order for that to happen, there's got to be a shift. I know. They also said about creating an alter ego. I don't know, maybe Gigi's my alter ego, because I'm a Gigi. My baby girls call me Gigi, and now my kids starting to call me Gigi, because I'm a Gigi. But, the way Gigi is, I don't think I think I'm quieter, believe it or not. But I think Gigi, having been a Gigi, it allows me to be more of that young child. My little girl, me, myself, and I, be me. That young kid inside, that young girl inside, who maybe didn't get to do maybe what she felt she needed to do, or maybe express herself the way she wanted to. But it's almost like Gigi gets to do that. Because Gigi couldn't go to the funeral home with pink hair. Well, it's kind of fading out because I'm kind of letting it go out, because springtime is over. I kept it pink for the Barbie party, but that's a whole other thing. You guys know about that. But I couldn't do that at the funeral home. That would not have been acceptable. But I could do it here as a Gigi, So the fact is, it has to be a shift, and it's got to be intentional. So this was after my divorce, so we're talking like 20 years ago. I think I shared with you that exercise that she gave me, going to the office and instead of you being the grump who sits in the office in your office till 10 o'clock, having your cup of coffee and nobody comes to talk to you until after 10, you be the one to go out there and say, good morning, how you doing? Which was very foreign to me. But like I had explained before, but when I did that, what got me was the reaction from people more than anything else. It wasn't me. I know when I went in, because when I was, I was speaking to my buddy there, when I spoke to Tiffany, told her what I was going to be doing, which she thought was hilarious because I was a bad cop, she was a good cop. Not that I was really bad. Yeah, she was pretty good. If there was hard news that needed to be delivered, I wasn't afraid to do it. And I think that's what she means by intentional shift. It's the change. You have to make it work. You have to do it. And it ain't easy. Because I remember going into the office and I had to your energy has to change. You can't be carrying that same energy that I had with don't talk to me till 10 o'clock energy. I couldn't do that. I had to be lighter. I had to be open. I had to be easy. And I was able to do that. And what I found is when I did go into the office and I did carry myself that way, the day was easier. And the way people reacted to me was easier as well too, because I didn't carry that. I'm not saying woe is me. I've never been one like woe is me type of thing, but it is a different energy. So when she says it has to be something that's intentional, I believe that to be true. And that exercise that the therapist gave me really helped me see the difference. And that's why I've come to believe it has to be a shift. It has to be intentional. And that's exactly what this gal was talking about, on this segment that I was watching. And then if you decide that you want to do that, if you want to change your personality, like my mama says, just be you, which is not an easy thing. It's first of all, I have been put in situations throughout my life that I was out in front. I didn't necessarily want to be out there. I was more comfortable sitting in the back by the door so I can make a quick getaway. But jobs put me in positions that I had to be in front. One of the first jobs I got as a manager, I was an ops director. It was a network company, and I worked with all men, and I was the manager or a director over a group of service techs. And I was probably my early 30s. I was pretty young. But obviously the owner of the place felt that I could do the job because I'd already been there for, a couple of years. I knew what they were doing. I understood, what needed to be done. I got along well with everybody because I was their dispatcher. But when I got promoted to be the manager, that was a whole other caliber. And I still remember one of the guys, they were brothers. It was Rob. I can't remember the other brother's name. But anyway, Rob's brother, I wanted him to go out and do a job. And he didn't want to do it. And we were out in the open on the floor. And there were a couple of techs here. I had my county manager on this side. I had the dispatcher on this side, and there was another tech. So there's 6 people out there in this open area. And I was standing in the middle of it, and he wanted to cop an attitude with me. That was hard for me to do because outside I may have shown cool, collected, you're going to get it done because I'm telling you to do it kind of attitude. But inside I was like, and I felt that for a number of years in a lot of positions I was in because I wasn't necessarily looking for that. I didn't necessarily want that. But I felt, and I think because of my work ethic, that there was a job that needed to be done and I was going to get it done. Some way or another, I was going to get it done. So I remember calling him out. I said, no, basically just saying, no, I need you to do it. I want you to do it, and you're going to do it. And he said, okay. And everybody goes, ooh. You can feel the energy change, So that was a moment that I remember that to me was very defining. And the thing that came out of that, he came back at the end of the day and apologized. And, he says, it's different now that just sitting behind that desk. Because me and him had a pretty good relationship. Before I had worked at that job, I was also a freelance paralegal. And I had helped him with a personal injury case, and he got a little bit of money because of that. For him to cop an attitude is like, come on, man. But he did come in to apologize, and he himself had to deal with the shift. He himself had to deal with the change in roles, just like I had to. Because one of the things that I found working with people, and when you come from the line, when I say the line, like the front line, and you go into a managerial role, it is very different. You can't, and people are not easy in dealing with that. They take a personal affront. What do you mean? What do you mean you're telling me? I'm your friend. I had to fire a couple people because of the job performance where I was on the line, their co-worker was their friend, but now it was different. So those are things that have happened to me along the way that had to make me change the way I did things, the way I handled my business. And it was very hard for me, and I know when I would come home, my poor kids, for me to shift. Because that role was that tough role, that hard role, that resting bitch face role was very, very hard for me, believe it or not. Well, maybe it wasn't too hard. I'm thinking part of it, that was part of my personality, because I was able to do it. I was able to get the job done. And the thing is, I got kudos for that. You got people patted you on the back. You got the job well done. And I'm a worker bee. I want to do a good job. I got a strong work ethic. I want to take care of shit. I want to get stuff done. If anybody's going to need to get something taken care of, you call me. And I don't know if I thrive on that, but I know I'll get the job done. Just saying. I found as I got older, and maybe more so now, since I've retired and I have the luxury of time, even though I am thinking of going back to work, and I'm looking at possibly going to work at Ross. But anyway, that's a whole other episode. Since I have the luxury of the time, I don't have to waste my time. I don't have to answer to anybody. Oh, well, aside from maybe Luna the dog and maybe Big Dog. Maybe he wants to know what's going on. As you get older, you start to understand it doesn't have to be that hard. It doesn't have to be so difficult. And you can lighten up a little bit. And what would you rather do? Would you rather be lighter? Would you rather have all that crap off you? Or do you want to be, like I said, when you're lighter, you're like this. When you're like carrying that load, there truly it's a physical change. And that's kind of what this gal was talking about, to really decide what you're going to do and how you're going to make it happen. And like one that said, create an alter ego. What's another term we've heard? Fake it till you make it. Because you start exercising those new muscles, you start exercising that new personality, you start exercising that new reaction. When you start getting positive reinforcement from it, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier to be able to do that. So, and as you're going through this change, step back and look at it. Because I know I did. This wasn't something that just happened overnight for me. Gigi wasn't always Gigi. I had to decide what's easier for me. What is it that I'm getting positive feedback from? Where is it that I'm going with this? What is it that I want to do? Do I really want to be that hard? Do I really want to make it more difficult? Because I'm not making other people, I'm out of here. But I'm still here. I'm still here. So how do I want to be here? How do I want to be sitting here with me? I want to be light. I want to be joyful. I want to be happy. And sometimes people can't give that to you. You have to give it to yourself. If you see that you're an extrovert and you want to be an introvert, if you see that you see things, look, I'm not saying everything's easy. I'm not saying some people can't do this on their own. I encourage self-care. I encourage self-help. I encourage getting therapy. I encourage talking, what they call it, self-talk or speak talk, speak talk therapy. You need to see a counselor, whoever you need to see. If you want to make a change, look, first of all, I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not a therapist nor am I a psychiatrist. I'm just a Gigi giving my own opinion about my own journey, about how I changed. That's all I'm doing. So let's get that out there. I don't want any haters or anybody, oh, that's so easy. I'm just telling you my story. But I do feel, because I've shared this with mainly my girl. You know, I have more talks like this with my girl than I do with my son. Just a different relationship. I have shared a little bit with my son because he knows his mom, but my girl really knows her mom. Mothers and daughters are just different. But anyway, I love my kids. Okay, Mio. But anyway, it's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? So once you decide that, how do you make that happen? And just, if you get out there and do it one time and you fall flat on your face, get up and do it again. Because the one thing that you've learned is don't do it like that again. Or you gain strength by getting back up again and doing it again. You know what I'm saying? That's right. Let's go ahead and read that quote again. So here's that quote again. Keep on beginning and failing. Each time you fail, start all over again, and you will grow stronger until you have accomplished a purpose. Not the one you began with, perhaps, but one you'll be glad to remember. You know, because sometimes we start here, but we end up over there, because maybe that's where we were really meant to go. You know, but we didn't know that. You have to be open along this journey, because you don't know where the hell it's going to take you. You know, did I know that I'd be sitting here in a relationship with this man 20 years later, out in Arizona for 10 years, got a rescue dog, got 2 kids, 3 grandbabies? Did I ever think I'd be out here in Arizona, SoCal gal? No. But I kept my options open, be open. Did I think I'd be involved with, a really good guy? No. But I took a chance and went on an online dating app. And I was willing to risk it. But you got to be safe out there. That's another talk. But anyway, don't be afraid of taking chances. Especially if it pushes you out of your comfort zone. That's also going to help you change the way you want to be. Because let's say you're very, very shy and you want to move out of your comfort zone. Even if it's going to just go get a coffee. Even if it's talking to somebody that you don't really talk to at work. Just say hello. Maybe you never even said hello. Just say, all those little baby steps are going to help you grow along the way. Because each time you say it, you get stronger and stronger and more comfortable with what you're doing, because the outcome may be more positive than you ever expected. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let me go ahead and read that. Because what happens, the new things that you start to do become habit, little by little. They really do. And don't be afraid to continue to encourage yourself, because you gotta be your biggest cheerleader. You know what I'm saying? Okay, here's the quote one more time, and I think we're gonna wrap it up for this chat. I really enjoyed talking to you folks, but here it is. Keep on beginning and failing. Each time you fail, start all over again, and you will grow stronger until you have accomplished a purpose. Not the one you began with, perhaps, but one you will be glad to remember, because maybe that wasn't what you were supposed to do, and you're on to something new. You know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, I think that's it for today, folks. Tits up. Hang tough. Gigi's got your back. I'll be here next week. I hope you enjoyed this little chat that we had here. And remember, Gigi's unfiltered here, so she's raw. I don't know if that sounds good, but anyway. You have a good one, folks. Have a good weekend. Salute. Cheers.